Last week was a busy week with new releases and rules, so I'm catching up on the recent tournaments, especially including Lock and Load. My name's Ryan. I used to be good at War Machine. Welcome to Spell Rack. With Lock and Load concluded, this officially marks the end of the 2025 season. So let's look at the last final events and where the year wrapped up, and we can all look forward to 2026. Alongside Lock and Load at the same weekend, there was an event in Australia featuring 19 players. Very interesting there. Old School Trolls won it with a one list format, also having Convergence of Sierras go through. So what an odd top of the meta that they had there in Australia. Infernals and Old Umbry rounding out the top four. This weekend, there was a finals event in Canada as well. This one featured Alex Kozma bringing home the finals. This was a top 8 with 3-0 with Brian Bloods. And then very interesting, Brandon played his Crucible Guard, going 2-1. Curious to see if Brandon jumps over to Crucible Guard for next year, or if that was just something he was having fun with here. Okay, with those, let's actually get into Lock and Load. I was at Lock and Load. Lock and Load was a fantastic event. So many wonderful people. Great to spend time with SFG staff. Just wonderful convention. If you've not been, get out there next year. If you've not been to a convention at all, go out, play games. I promise the War Machine community is friendly and inviting. You'll just have a blast. So first event, team tournament. My team ended up in third place, the January Changes scouting team. I was paired up with Jamie and Lox. So they were the January scouting team. I was just an additional player. I did go 3-0 myself, but we didn't pull it off in the last round. But a really fun event there. While the team tournament was going on, there was the last chance qualifier, trying to make it into the invitational. And so this ended up with Shadow Flame on top at 4-0, along with a Dusk and a Brian Bloods. Keep in mind, this event was only just played for 4 rounds, and then they cut to a top that they needed to filter into the invitational. And so they were just trying to get to a certain number of players. At the 3-1s, though, we'll just keep down the top 8. We have Crix, 2 more Dusk, another Shadow Flame, and we have a Sea Raiders. So obviously Dusk in this meta showing very well with 3 Dusk players out of the top 8. It actually put a significant number of Dusk players into the Invitational. While the Invitational was being played, for those not in the Invitational, there was an IG qualifier. This really is the first event of 2026. This event was won by Lox, who went 5-0 with his Signar. And then you see a very interesting top 8 from there. Old Umbry, Old Umbry, Old Umbry, Dusk, Old Umbry, Old Umbry, Crix. Very interesting to see this come together in this way, having 5 of the top 8 as Old Umbry players. Hopefully the army gets touched significantly in January, because seeing 5 armies in the top 8 is not great. A good event here. Glad to see Lox win it for Signar. For the Iron Gauntlet top 16, this actually started as a top 32, and we played in pods. So we played in 4 different pods of 8 players to bring us to 32, and then the top 4 in each pod advanced into the top 16. So I ended up playing in a pod, ended up going 2-1 in my pod, losing to Dan Riker was the only loss that I had. Coming into the top 16 then, so this was already the field in half, Dan Riker wins the whole event going 4-0, is the Lock and Load Invitational champion. So congrats to Dan. Not only did I lose to Dan in the pods, I lost to him on the second day. And so my only losses on the entire weekend were to Dan, unfortunately. And Dan was one listing it. He was playing Horusk. Lion does not concern himself with the second list. And that was true to form. He brought a Sabareth model with him just to say he had a second one in case he needed to, but his intention was to play this the whole weekend. And that he did. So congratulations to Dan. I'm sitting down here at 5th place because he took me out in this bracket. Peyton lost in the finals, and that's why he's got that 4 points. And then Ryan and Shane lost in the quarters. And so that kind of brings your top 4 factions out to Sea Raiders, Shadow Flame, Dusk, and Crix. And then your additional top 4 past that, Dusk, Brian Blood, Khador. So a pretty interesting top 8. Not a lot of Old Umbrian here. Apparently they were all playing in the other event for the 2026 format. Let's actually look at the population of factions here, just because this was kind of a big event, and this event having the top 32 immediately sorting out 16 players, so they're not included in this. Those 16 players would have been playing in that 2026 event. I know that there were a number of Old Umbries in the top 32, and so those Old Umbries got pushed into the other format. So it was kind of interesting here. You had Shadowflame at 4 players, Dusk at 3, Brinebloods at 3. That's a top 3 faction count that you wouldn't normally see. Shadowflame traditionally good for the year, but has been pretty awful the last handful of months. Dusk has been not good all year. Brinebloods have been solid all year, but nothing insane. Grixis has been good, albeit worse recently. Sea Raiders have been a consistent, 50% win rate faction all year. And then we have Khador, and then Cygnar is the one faction that's sort of been pretty solid in the mid to high 50s. Very surprised that we didn't end up with any Infernals players. I just don't think there were any that showed up in the top 32. No Gravediggers players showed up. And then the Old Umbry players were knocked out. And so it was a very interesting format to end up in the top 16. I will say I was very excited with my performance. I didn't put any expectations on myself for this weekend, but to go 3-0 in the team tournament and then to be able to make it here into the top 16, only losing to the eventual winner. I was pretty proud of that, and ending up 5th on standings, something I'm very excited about. Okay, let's look at the final meta of the year. This is the last 3 months. So this really is the full Old Umbry release, and Old Umbry, of course, here on top at a 60% win rate, right there with Infernals, who've been very, very good all year at a 60% also. Storm Legion at 54, Brinebloods at 53, Sea Raiders at 52. Still funny that they end up winning with one caster at the end as Horus. 177. Look at the Horus games played versus everybody else. Absolutely insane. Gravediggers at 51, Crix Necrofactorum at 50. Really curious to see where Crucible Guard goes next year. Shadowflame ended up at 49, below 50%. House Callus at 48, Dark Op at 47, and where's Khador down there at 41. So with that concludes the end of 2025. Again, congratulations to Dan Riker. I'm really excited for 2026. The meta is going to change dramatically. I can't even imagine what it's going to look like. Removing the spell rack, lowering hit statistics, changing some of the way the gun game works. They talked about the highest range guns and sprays going down. It's just everything's going to change. Khador could easily come out the best faction next year. We'll see what happens. But I'm excited for the changes, for Steamroller, for everything. Again, I think SFG is doing a great job with the game, so just excited to see where they take us next. All right, everyone, I will be releasing episodes in December. We'll do some kind of wish listing for the 2026 update. But as far as Meta Mondays, this will be the last one for the year. Thanks, everyone. Bye.